For our first example on this video, we're going to write and graph an inequality from a sentence. So let's take a look at this. A number r is no less than negative 1.5. Let's analyze the phrase is no less than. All right, so if r is not less than negative 1.5, it could be greater than. It also could be equal to 1.5. That would make it so it is not less than 1.5. So there is our inequality for the phrase r is no less than negative 1.5 and fewer than 9.5. So it's still talking about this r. This r is fewer than 9.5. Fewer than means it's less than 9.5. And then the key word right here is and. So let's graph both of these and decide what to keep. So r is greater than or equal to negative 1.5. Now negative 1.5 would be here, halfway in between negative 1 and 2. We are greater than or equal to, so we're going to shade off to the right. Less than 9.5, so we're going to have an open circle here at 9.5, and we're going to shade off to the left. Now if I extend these arrows, we'll notice that they overlap and they pass each other to both sides. The word and means that we keep where it works for both of those. And if it doesn't work for one, we're going to throw it out. So this area where we pass right here, it doesn't work for this lower graph anymore. So I'm going to get rid of that area until negative or 9.5. This area doesn't work for the upper graph, so I'm going to throw that out until we get to negative 1.5. And the area that we keep is in between these two values, from negative 1.5 to 9.5. So my final graph is shaded in between those two. I'm going to erase this one and this one to clean up my picture. Okay, so every sentence, make sure you're paying careful attention to the words and or, and for the phrases such as is no less than. Let's take a look at a few examples. Now for these, we have our inequalities already created. Our job is to graph them. And you'll notice that we have some work to do right here because our r is not by itself. So we're going to have to solve these in order to graph them. Now on this one, remember that these are always and statements when we've got these two inequalities put together. I'm not going to try and solve these all at once. I'm going to separate them into the two inequalities and I'm going to solve them separately. Then we will put them on the graph. So our first one is this to the left. And I'm going to exclude this second inequality symbol. So I'm just going to look at that. That gives us negative 9 is less than or equal to 3r. The next, we're going to exclude this inequality symbol. So it goes from here to here. That would be... Sorry about the interruption. That would be here. 3r is less than 24. And the phrase that connects these, or the word that connects these, is and. All right, let's solve this, and then we'll be ready to graph them. So we're going to finish this out by dividing by 3. That gives us negative 3 is less than or equal to r. This side, we're also going to divide by 3 on both sides. That gives us r is less than 24. And the word that connects them is still and. That follows all the way through. Okay, let's graph these. So we have this one where our r values have a closed circle at negative 3. Oops, sorry, made a quick mistake here. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Sorry about that. So we've got a closed circle at negative 3, and we have an open circle here at positive 8. Our r values are bigger than the negative 3, so that's going to go over to the right. Our r values are smaller than the 8, so that's going to go over to the left. The word and means that we keep where they overlap. We keep where both of them work. So I'm not going to go past here. I'm not going to go past there. I'm going to keep the area where they overlap. That would be in between the negative 3 and the positive 8. And we are finished with this graph. Let's take a look at the next one. These are already separated out, so I don't have to worry about separating them like I did in the last one. We're just going to solve them separately. So we subtract 3 from both sides here. We get 2r is less than 4. Divide by 2, and we get r is less than 2. This one right here, we're going to subtract 9. That gives us negative r is less than or equal to negative 7. To eliminate this negative, I'm going to divide by negative 1. And recall, when we divide by a negative number, the inequality has to change direction. So that would give us r now is greater than or equal to positive 7. The word that connects them is or. That was up here at the top. So let's draw these two graphs, see what it looks like. So we have our 2 and 7. So 2 and 7. We have an open circle at 2. And our r values are smaller, so they're going to go to the left. We have a closed circle at 7. Our r values are bigger, so they're going to go to the right. And now we have these two graphs. Or means if it works for one or if it works for the other, we're going to keep all of them. So we're going to keep these, we're going to keep those. Our final graph looks like this, with that shaded to the left and this shaded to the right. Clean that up. And let's do one more example right here. Again, you notice that we have this two inequality situation where they're combined into one. So for this, we're going to separate them out. We're going to ignore this inequality. So we have negative 20 or positive 22 is less than negative 3c plus 4. Then we're going to ignore that one. So we have negative 3c plus 4 is less than 14. And the word that connects these two is and. So let's go ahead and solve these. Subtract 4. Subtract 4, we get 18 is less than negative 3c. Divide by negative 3. And we get negative 6. This needs to flip because we just divided by a negative number, so it's now greater than c. And then I'm going to switch this around so my c is on the left side. That would be c is less than negative 6. Okay, let's solve this one. Subtract 4. Subtract 4, we get negative 3c is less than 10. Divide by negative 3. We get c. Again, we have to flip this. Is greater than. This would be negative 10/3. We could leave it as that, or we could do negative 3 1/3. I'm going to put it this way because it's a little easier for me to picture on a number line as a mixed number. Typically, I'd leave it as a fraction unless I'm graphing it. All right, so we have negative 6 and negative 3 1/3. That's in between negative 3 and negative 4, so that would be here. All right, we've got an open circle here at negative 6. And our c values are smaller, so we're going to the left. We have an open circle again here at negative 3 1/3. Our c values are bigger, so we're going off to the right. The word that connects them is and, so we're going to see what numbers work for both of these. Well, there is no number that is less than negative 6 and at the same time greater than negative 3 1/3. We can see that on the graph because there's no place where they overlap. So on this one, there is no solution because there is no number that works for both of these. So no solution. And our graph is just blank. So we're going to leave these out. And we're finished. Thank you.